Guys, welcome back. Jay Tsuro, Jay with the Pay. Hope you're doing well and swell. Back with another video. Today, I want to talk about most people not understanding finances, or most people are idiots when it comes to money and how it works. All right, so it is what it is, but let's get right into it. Guys, I am in finance. I see a lot of different types of situations and people just not knowing or understanding how to deal with money, right? Most people are idiots when it comes to money. And what I will tell you, it's really not that complicated, okay? The first thing that I want to get into is what is money, okay? The most common definition you will hear is money is a medium of exchange, right? And the easy way to understand this, if you have a tomato farmer and a cucumber farmer, right? If they each want what the other one has, so cucumber farmer wants tomatoes, tomato farmer wants cucumbers, that's a even exchange, right? They'll happily trade what they have for what they want and vice versa, and it works out fine. Now, what happens if the cucumber farmer doesn't want the tomatoes? Well, are they just not going to do business? You know, they have to figure out some kind of other method. So that's where currency, money comes into play, right? And then the other thing with that example is sometimes it's seasonal, right? So if you only have, your crops or animals or whatever during a certain time of year, you're not able to capitalize or utilize on that profitability or being able to get what you want, right? You only would have a certain window per year to get the things that you need and want. Okay, so this is where money comes in, and some forms of money that people have used over the years. We've used rocks, seashells, beads. If you know anything about the slave trade beads, they basically flooded the currency of beads during the time to actually buy and enslave people. So, people went to these countries that were using beads, and they basically went back to where, they're from or where they came from. They got a bunch of beads. They went back and they used that, kind of loophole or what they were using that they thought had value. They flooded it and then actually used that to enslave and buy people. So this is how crazy of a control money can have on us as people, right? So that's kind of the first thing. So money, it's a medium of exchange, and also the thing you need to know is it's changed forms many, 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 many times, right? And fiat currency is just the latest iteration of that. What is fiat currency? It's basically paper money or promissory notes that the government issues, IOUs essentially, and it's not really backed by anything other than the full faith of the government, if you believe in that, right? So fiat currency, the thing with those, they've never lasted a long time, right? I believe the U.S. is actually the longest, the USD is the longest fiat currency that has been in existence. I want to say, let's look this up. I don't want to tell you guys anything wrong. Other year it came out. Let's just see. I don't know every single thing off the top of my head. I know it's hard to believe. So the US dollar, obviously coins, they minted, gold, silver. But so 1971, duh. So 1971, we had we got off the gold standard from Richard Nixon, and that is what the currency transition from, it was gold backed to fiat currency because there was nothing that was actually holding the value. So once we did that, we were essentially cooked, because when that happened, the government can just basically print as much money as it needs. Why does it do this? Well, it's power, right? This is how wars are funded. This is how projects are funded. And, all the Social Security, all the money that people get is just debt. And it's paid for by, guess who? the citizens in tax dollars, right? So the government is one of the best people or entity to lend money to, because all they have to do in order to pay their debts and obligations is to tax their own citizens. And that's how they make the payment. So if they have more debt, higher payment, guess what? Higher taxes. And that's how it constantly gets paid for, and this whole system is kind of put together. Guys, this is more of a serious video. I know I have a lot more kind of little like jokes, wittiness maybe, but this is a topic I'm very passionate and serious about. Guys, you don't want to play with, finances and your money. Like, this is what, separates people from, living different lives. You don't want to be that, 80, 90-year-old Walmart greeter because you didn't take money seriously and you didn't know what you were doing. And so many people don't know what they're doing. Okay, so this is kind of the lore of money. Now, I kind of want to transition to actual things I see people doing wrong and mistakes that I've made. So now that you kind of have a better sense of what money is, it's, technically it's not backed by anything. It's a medium of exchange, or fiat currency isn't backed by anything, I should say. Gold and silver is essentially like the OG form of money. It, works. People have trusted it for a long time because you can't just print a bunch of it, right? It has to be mined, has to be refined, and then minted into the coins. But guys, they were trying to do money printing even before, they could make money on paper by something called coin clipping. And this is where they would take a gold or silver coin and they would shave off the edges of the coin and then melt that to have more silver and gold. So they devalued the money in this way. People will always try to devalue money. That's something that you have to understand. We'll always try to inflate it. So now that we kind of have a understanding of like what is money and whatnot, guys, you have to invest. So knowing what we just went over, and the government just basically having the infinite money glitch and printing as much money as they want, you have to invest, right? This is not financial advice, but you have to invest. It's the only way to try to outpace the government's printing. If you just keep your money in a savings account, not making any interest, the rate of inflation, honestly, at this point is probably at least 3 or 4%, if not 5%, the amount of money they're going to start printing. So that means you have to make over 4 or 5% just to kind of grow the money. If you put, your money in a CD that's paying 4%, all you're doing is keeping the money, like you're preserving it. It's not really going to grow because if you, calculate for the rate of inflation, it's pretty much just being stagnant. But it's not going down, which is good, right? You don't want your money to lose value over time. So if you had, at least the rate of inflation paid out in interest, you'd at least be keeping the money the same buying power. But guys, you want to grow your money. That's the whole point, right? Is eventually you can go from being that worker bee and, you've done enough investing and whatnot to be able to live off of your investments and retire, and then kind of have more of that, time, location, money freedom, and you can kind of do whatever you want, hopefully at an earlier age than most. But guys, so many people, the first thing you need to know, you need a job. Okay, that might sound obvious, but you got to work if you can. Okay, if not, you're on Social Security or some type of assistance. That's fine, but you have to budget your money. You have to know exactly where it's going. A good way to do this is have different accounts for different things. I would see a lot of people with a lot of money, and something they would do that I always thought was kind of complicated is they'd have a whole bunch of accounts. Why do people do this? It's inevitable. It's inevitable because the more investments, businesses, and things you have, etc., the more accounts you need in order to keep the accounting easy, right? You can't just run everything through one account. So inevitably, when you get to having more money, having businesses and different investments, you need a lot of different accounts for different purposes. So guys, you can start this principle today. Okay, you can have one account for fixed expenses, which is game changer. You can have a spend account. You can have a savings account. You can percentage different, percentages off of what you're making in order to cover different things in life, right? So you could do, there's a book called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. He really talks about this method in depth, but like you could do 10% in savings guaranteed. 5% is your, spend money. You don't care what you do with that. 50% for expenses, 35% for, kind of whatever, rainy day. You can allocate these different accounts for whatever best suits you, but you have to know where the money is going. I use Monarch. I used to use Mint Money before that. You can link all your accounts in one place, and you can kind of see what's going on. For my businesses, I use spreadsheets. So I would recommend that. I mean, spreadsheets, Excel, it's free. It's really not that difficult. You can use QuickBooks, but it kind of depends, right? Because I don't like the monthly cost. I mean, if you have a very complicated business, I get where it can make sense. But I've got quite a few businesses, and spreadsheets has been working for me fine. Now I'm not doing 50 transactions a day. So if I had a business like that, I probably would use a QuickBooks or some type of program to actually track it easier. But guys, I hope this is making sense. I'm kind of just like going into it, giving a bunch of sauce, but we went over kind of what money is, a couple of things you can do. And yeah, I mean, you got to invest. You got to know where the money is going. And obviously, you have to develop skills that are going to let you earn more money, right? I'll give you guys an example of me. I learned how to do kind of sales, people, talking abilities, build rapport with people, and I've been able to do jobs that kind of align with that. Now, using that and being in finance, it's, couple of things that I really find interesting. Most people I like to, work with, build rapport. Obviously not, people are the worst and the best part about life, so it just depends on the person. But I like what I'm doing as far as my day-to-day, my 9 to 5. But I've been doing real estate investing for 6 or so years now, and that's something that I've really started building systems and know a decent amount about. I started another business a couple years ago, and I'm actually looking to get out of that business because it's just a lot different, and it kind of competes with my time with doing the real estate, which is what I know, and I've already, kind of developed and built systems in that business a lot more. So me starting another business, it's taking my time away from doing something that can probably result in more money. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to know which businesses are going to be that for you until you start it. And the other business I started, it was really good at first, but then it just started kind of changing as we were, kind of going and doing it more and more. And sometimes that's all right, but you only have so much time in a day. You really need to preserve and, keep your energy as much as possible. The other thing I'll talk about is we kind of went into, you got to know where your money is going. What does that mean specifically? Guys, in my opinion, if you can avoid debt, I'm not perfect. I've, financed things, had loans, credit card debt, all that. If you can, you really need to try to avoid it unless this is the only thing I would, unless it's kind of backed by an asset, right? So if I've got a mortgage on a property that I rent out and I'm not servicing that debt, that can be worth it. All right, it's still not risk-free. You still have a mortgage. If they, leave the property, you have a vacancy. Guess who has to pay for that mortgage at the end of the day? You do, right? That can really suck. That's why, a lot of times people will, calculate 15 to 25% vacancy into a rental property because stuff happens, and you might not always have a great paying tenant all the time. So yeah, if you can avoid debt, drive a paid-off vehicle. That's a game changer. I mean, unless you're a car guy or woman and you just got to have, a certain type of car. Guys, drive a paid-off vehicle if you can. Cars are already expensive enough. You have, maintenance costs, insurance costs, fuel costs. None of these you can really control. So the one thing you can control is if you have a car payment or not. So if you're able to drive a paid-off car, obviously if you've got like a hoopty that's breaking down on you all the time, maybe it's worth it to finance something just to give you a little bit more peace of mind, but try to get it paid off as quick as possible. Guys, I don't want to keep going. I hope you picked up something from this video. I try to just, really be blunt about this, but most people don't understand money. They don't know what it is. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know, different types of accounts for accounting purposes. They don't know how to invest or how often. You want to try to systemize money, right? And I can go into this more. We can kind of dive more specifically on certain topics within money, but guys, these are things you can do. Take the action. It doesn't matter if you made it to the end of the video. If you don't apply anything or take anything or any steps of action from this video, nothing is going to change. And I hope that if you watch this, you did make it to the end. I hope that your life genuinely will improve. So with all that being said, guys, I appreciate you. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.